Hello everyone and welcome to Pragmach. Today I want to discuss with you the Surface Pro 7 that you don't want to buy, and that is the Surface Pro 7 Plus. Before anyone gets a little too distressed by that, it's not that you don't want to buy it, it's that it's not really intended for you to buy it. It is aimed at a business and student customer base. In fact, it's not even sold at the Microsoft retail stores. You have to get it through the student or the business avenues that Microsoft provides. However, there are some very interesting upgrades. One is going to be the updated battery life, which is about 50% more. The second is it has the updated 11th generation Intel chips, which are being incorporated on a lot of the more recent laptops, and the option for LTE connectivity, as well as the ability to remove the SSD. And that's a kinda, because you do need to be a technician. However, it is there. Before we get into the 7 Plus, we need to remember that all this is happening on the eve of the Surface Pro 8. And I think that most consumers are going to be interested in the Surface Pro 8, and there will be a video on that once that launches, covering some of the changes between the 7 to the 8. However, the Surface Pro 7 Plus, it seems, will be sold alongside the 8, which will be interesting to see. Configuration-wise, on the Surface Pro 8, we expect it to have the 11th generation chipsets. However, the battery, that's going to be interesting if it also carries the extended battery life that they just gave the Plus. Getting back to the 7 Plus, some of the most notable and welcome changes are the Intel i3 model, the lowest end CPU configuration, now is going to ship with 8 gigabytes of RAM. Goodbye to the 4 gigabyte model, goodbye to that on the low end, and I'm so happy to see that because it makes it really easy now to even recommend a very entry level Surface Pro 7 because you don't have to worry about limitations of 4 gigabytes of RAM, which really could have an impact depending on what you're interested in doing. And the other notable change is going to be the increased battery life, which is 15 hours of battery life, and that is compared to the regular Surface Pro 7's 10 and a half hours of battery. That's pretty much 50%. That is a huge leap. I think that is a welcome change. And we have to remember, why did Microsoft release this product? Why does it exist? And it's for business and students. Now, the reason to keep the form and just updating the internals with 11th generation chipsets, that's going to give the business and education market the ability to not have to change the form factor for its users if they have training materials or other support materials, docs, configurations that are built around that size. It's not going to be a shift or a change for their user base. So in a lot of these enterprise situations, you might be deploying a lot of these Surface to a lot of your employees, and the last thing you want to do is create friction by maybe giving them a Surface Pro X, which might have a narrow bezel or it might have a different form factor. It might throw them off. It might also impact other infrastructure that you might have built around the Surface Pro 7. That is really the reason why Microsoft has kind of kept it dull design-wise. Literally nothing has changed. The ports are the same, display is the same, generally just a Surface Pro 7 Plus. See what I did there? The battery life and the new CPUs. The SSD here is removable, not user removable. You know, you need to be a bit of a technician, as it says in the documentation, for an enterprise or an education deployment. This is going to be really good when you're having to maintenance these things. You have to imagine a lot of them get broken, data needs to be salvaged, drives fail, and having a non-soldered SSD, having something you can actually swap out without having to chip away at a bunch of metal to rip the SSD out is going to be great. It's going to be really beneficial. For consumers, I got to tell you, this isn't something you'd probably get into unless you're a very advanced user. And again, these are not consumer-facing laptops. However, I got to say, the increase of 8 gigabytes of RAM on the entry-level model, also the increased battery life, 15 hours, that is a great battery life. I'm really hoping that that continues into the Surface Pro 8, which we hopefully will see here pretty soon. Thank you, everyone. And as always, thank you from Pragmach.